Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Another day, another tutorial, this time in the form of a modern vest. This vest features a two-texture design that snatches the waist but keeps things loose up top for a casual fit that goes with just about everything. Cozy, casual crochet. Speaking of, if you're looking for your next casual make, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of the chillest crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 235 grams of yarn, that's 520 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5 and 6 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you'd rather have a sandwich or a salad. A sandwich, hands down. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, double crochet, and Trinity stitch. This tutorial is made for a size small. We can adjust it for a size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5 millimeter hook and start off by making a chain that starts at our underbust, so roughly where an underwire would sit, down to where I'd like the bottom of this top to be, so you can make this cropped or full length. I'd like for mine to be full length, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 45, that's just about 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our following row, which is a double crochet row. Start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then starting with a yarn over, insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook. So into that chain, we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, into that next chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue with 1 double crochet into every chain, leaving the last one. So we've made our way all the way down our chain with our double crochets, leaving that last one. Now into that last chain, we're going to do an increase of 2 double crochets. So into that last chain, we're all going to insert with 1 double, into that same last chain with a 2nd double crochet. Now we should have 1 more stitch than chains that we made. Now our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row, so start by doing a chain 1, flip our work, and find the first stitch from our previous row. We're going to insert our hook into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, then yarn over and gently pull through both loops on our hook, just like that. Again, next stitch is back loop, insert, gently pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, remembering not to tug too tightly, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. We made our way down with our row 2. Now from here, it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows, but now all within the back loops. So getting started on our next row, we're going to chain 3, flip our work, and put 1 back loop, double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. So yarn over, into that first stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue till we have 1 stitch left. We've made our way down with our row 3, leaving that last stitch. Into that last stitch, just like our row 1, we're all going to do an increase of 2 back loop double crochets. So yarn over, into that last stitch's back loop with 1 double, same back loop with a 2nd double crochet. Then our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. So chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. From here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, and I will meet you back once when this can reach from mid underarm all the way over to the middle of our chest, right after a double crochet row. We are back and the increase half is complete. Now I have a total of 17 rows. This width is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters unstretched. Now from here, we're going to get started on our middle row, which is just a slip stitch row with no increases and no decreases. So same so far. From where we're at, chain 1, flip our work, Put one back loop slip into every stitch. Then to get started on the other side of our front panel, we're going to chain 3 and flip our work, then do back loop double crochets, making our way all the way up, leaving the last 2 stitches, and then I'll meet you back. We are back and we've made our way all the way down with our middle row, which was just our slip stitch row. We do want to make sure that we insert our stitch marker into the top of that middle row just so we know where that's at. Then we have also done our back loop double crochets, making our way all the way up, leaving the last 2 stitches. Now we're all going to do a decrease together. Now to do our decrease, yarn over into that second to last back loop, pull through, also into that last back loop, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through the first 3 loops, leaving us with 2, then yarn over, pull through 2, and that is our decrease. From here, our following row is a back loop slip stitch row, again with no increases and no decreases. Then our following row is another double crochet row within the back loops, decreasing into the last 2 stitches. Just continue to repeat those 2 rows until we have the same amount of rows that we have on this side of the bottom portion, not including that middle row. Then I will meet you guys back. We should all end right after double crochet row. And just one last really quick tip, if the bottom portion is slanting, that will happen naturally, but it'll all even out once when it's seamed up and worn. We are back. The total width of the bottom panel is complete. Now I have a total of 35 rows. My width is roughly 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. Now from here, just to clean everything up before we get started on the height, we're going to single crochet along the top. So we're going to be putting 2 singles into every side double, 1 single into every side slip. So at the end of our last row, we're all going to chain 1. I've already done mine. Finding our first side row, it should be a side double for everyone. We're going to find that top loop and insert, starting with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, into that same top loop, there's 2. Now this is my following side row, which is a side slip stitch row, so find that top loop and insert with just 1. Just to do this once more, this is my following side row, which is a side double. Find that top loop and insert with 2, so there's 1. Same top loop with 2. And our side slip, find that top loop and insert with just 1. We're going to continue doing this to reach this other corner stitch over here. But once we're worked into our middle row, which is the row that our stitch marker's in, we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that stitch so we know where the middle's at. Then do a chain up 1 and cut. We are back. We have just completed our single crochet row. The next thing we're going to do is insert our stitch markers into any odd numbered stitches along the edges of our neck. So placing this up to ourselves, we're just going to trace the side of our neck all the way down to the top of the single crochet row and insert our stitch markers. I inserted my stitch markers into the 19th stitch from both ends. They need to be in the same amount of stitches. And now we can get started on the top half. Insert your 6mm hook into the corner stitch of our single crochet row. Then we're all going to make an odd number chain that reaches the top of our shoulder. I needed just about 10 inches or 25 centimeters, so I'm going to make a chain of 41. So getting started on our first row, which is going to be a Trinity stitch row, we're all going to start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And the first Trinity stitch is going to be done a little bit differently than all the other ones. So what we're going to do is start by single crocheting into that first stitch. So into that chain that we blocked off, we're going to insert with 1 single crochet. So insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Then to do our first Trinity stitch, we are going to insert your hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in. So insert, pull through, and we do want to make sure that we're using a medium to loose grip into that following chain because we need to pull up 4 loops. Insert, pull through, and into that following, insert, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 4. Then to finish off this first Trinity stitch, chain 1. That's the first Trinity stitch. Let's do the following one. We need to pull up 4 loops again, so start by inserting our hook into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into. So that stitch will be occupied. We're going to insert, pull through for 2 loops. Into that following chain, pull through, following chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through 4, chain 1. Now it's going to be that Trinity stitch till we have 2 chains left, so let's just do one more. Into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, we're going to insert, pull through. Into that following chain, we're going to insert, pull through, following chain, insert, pull through. We now have a total of 4 loops on our hook, so yarn over, pull through all 4, and gently chain 1. Continue on with that Trinity stitch till we have 2 chains left. So we're back. We've made our way all the way down with our Trinity stitches, leaving the last 2 chains. So now we're going to do the last Trinity stitch. But it is going to start off the same way as the beginning of our other ones. So we're going to start by pulling up the same 4 loops. So into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitches worked into, we're going to insert, pull through for 2. Into that next stitch, which should be our second to last chain, pull through for 3. Then into that next stitch, which should be the last, pull through for 4. Then yarn over, pull through 4. And for the last Trinity stitch, all we're going to do, instead of chaining to complete that last Trinity stitch, we're going to single crochet into that same last chain just to make the edge nice and blunt. Now that we have closed off our last Trinity stitch, we're going to need to connect it into the base, which is that single crochet row along the top of our bottom panel. So flip our work over if we need to. And all I'm going to do is slip stitch into that next available stitch. So into that stitch, I'm going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything on my hook. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then we're going to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that next stitch into the base. Go ahead and insert, pull through everything. Still does not count as a stitch, that's just to connect, and flip our work. And we're going to do our Trinity stitch all the way back down. So just to get the first one started, start with our first Trinity stitch, which starts with a single crochet into the last stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches into the base. So into the top of our previous row's single crochet, insert with a single crochet, then pull up 4 loops. So into that same stitch that our single crochet's in, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through for 4. Then yarn over, pull through 4, chain 1 to complete. Now that our first one's completed, let's do the second one. Into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 4, chain 1, and continue on with this till we have 2 stitches left. We've made our way down with our second Trinity stitch row. Now we're going to close it off with our last Trinity stitch again, which was the same way as our previous row. So into that last stitch our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 4, then close off the row with just 1 single crochet into that last stitch. Then our following row is going to be a single crochet row. It is going to be a 3-row repeat. So chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 3 stitches. We've just made our way all the way down with our single crochets, leaving the last 3 stitches. Now we're going to close off the row with a decrease of 3 single crochets. So into that third to last, we're going to insert, pull through, second to last, pull through, and last, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all 4. Now we should have 2 less stitches than our previous row. Now we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we just did. So just finding that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch to connect. Doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then it's going to be a repeat of our 3 previous rows, but since this is a 3-row repeat, sometimes our single crochet row will start along the outer edge, like this one, or along the base. But we're only decreasing into the row that starts along the outer edges. So since the Trinity stitch rows don't increase or decrease, get the 2 following Trinity stitch rows completed. Then I'll meet you guys back when we have a total of 5 rows to do our following single crochet row. So we are back. We have just completed our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Now we're going to connect it into the base and get started on our 6th row. So connecting it into the base is the same way, so just finding that next available stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Doesn't count as a stitch, then work our way up to the following row by slip stitching into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. We are back and our first 6 rows are completed. Now what we're all going to do from here is repeat our 6 previous rows until our neckline stitch marker stitch is reached. So just as a refresher, it is 2 Trinity stitch rows with absolutely no increases and no decreases, then a single crochet row that starts along the outer edge, then ends with a decrease of 3. Then 2 Trinity stitch rows, a single crochet row, then repeat. I'll meet you back when we're worked into our following stitch marker stitch. Alright, so we are back. We have just completed their shoulder portion and we are worked into our stitch marker stitch. Now from here we're going to get started on our neckline. So since we all should have ended into the base, what we're going to do is insert a stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top that's roughly 1 inch underneath the base of our neck. So I went ahead and measured mine out. I inserted my stitch marker into the 14th stitch from the top, that's just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Now the rest of this neckline portion until we reach our middle stitch marker stitch is going to be exactly the same. So the following row may be a little bit different for everyone depending on which row you ended on. I ended on just one Trinity stitch row, so my following row will be a Trinity stitch row. So I'm going to do my following row until I reach my stitch marker, but you do your following row until you reach the stitch marker. So we are back. We have just made our way all the way up until we have reached our stitch marker stitch. Now from here, we're just going to do our following row and just continue to do the same exact row sequence that we've been doing this entire time until we reach our stitch marker stitch within the middle. So just to let you guys know, my following row is going to be a single crochet row. So I will chain one and flip my work. Put one single crochet into every stitch. And since I'm working in towards the base, I will still be closing off my row with a decrease of 3 single crochets. Then just continue on from there. I'll meet you guys back once we're worked into the stitch right before our middle stitch marker stitch. So we are back. One half of our front panel is nearly complete. We are worked into the stitch that's right before our middle stitch marker stitch. Now the middle row is going to be just a single crochet row for everyone. It doesn't matter what row in your row sequence that you're on, and it also doesn't matter if you guys end along the top or the bottom. It is going to be a solid single crochet row, no increases, no decreases. So since I ended along the top, I'm going to chain one, flip my work, put one single crochet into every stitch. We're still connecting into the base the same way that we normally would be, and then I'll meet you back at the end of that row. We are back. Our middle row is complete. Now what we're all going to do from here is just mirror everything that we did here on this side. So taking a look at our previous rows, it may be a little bit different for everyone, but my last two rows were Trinity stitch rows, single crochet row, Trinity stitch, single crochet. So on this side, I'm still going to be doing my 6 row repeat. So 2 Trinity stitches, 1 single, 2 Trinity stitch, 1 single. And the single crochet row now, that is working in towards the base, into that last stitch, we are going to do an increase of 3, because on this side, we did a decrease of 3. So go ahead and mirror what you guys have on this side, And when you guys are ready to do your increase, so whenever we're doing a single crochet row that's working in towards the base, I will meet you guys back just to do the increase together. So we are back. I've just done my few rows that I needed to do before I got to my next single crochet row that would end along the base. So what we're all going to do from here, we should all be along the outer edge now, is chain one, flip our work. Put one single crochet into every stitch, leaving the last stitch, and I'll meet back to increase together. So we've made our way all the way down with our single crochet row, leaving that last stitch. Now into that last stitch, we're all going to insert with 3 single crochets. So into there with 1, same last stitch with a second, same last stitch with a third, then connect it into the base the same way that we normally have been doing. Now all we're going to do from here is the same row sequences that we've been doing this entire time, but now, just like how we've done together, every single crochet row that ends along the base is going to end with an increase of 3 single crochets. Continue to do that until we're worked into the stitch that's right before our following stitch marker stitch, and then I will meet you back. Alright, so we are back. I made my way all the way over until I'm worked into the stitch that's right before my following stitch marker stitch. Now we all should have ended along the top, so what we're all going to do from here is make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped on this side of our neckline. Once we have that chain, all we're going to do is the following row in our row sequence. So for those of you that have my numbers, my following row will be a Trinity stitch row. So I'm just going to Trinity stitch my way all the way down. Then continue on with my row sequence of 2 Trinity stitches, 1 single crochet row. But the single crochet row that ends working into the base is going to end with an increase of 3 singles. We're just going to continue on with that till we don't have any more stitches left. Then I will meet you back. We are back. We have just made our way all the way across with our front panel. I did do a chain up a one and cut right after my last one, and now what we're going to do from here is the same thing for the back panel, but for the bottom we aren't going to do any increases or decreases. I actually already have mine already completed, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. Start by making a chain for the same amount of chains that we made when we got started on our front panel, only for the bottom. So if you guys have my numbers, I made a chain of 45 with my 5mm hook. Then do back loop double and back loop slip stitch rows with absolutely no increases and no decreases for the same amount of rows that we have as the front panel. So it should be, for me, 45 stitches all the way across. Then once we have that, I will meet you guys back so we can single crochet across the top. So we now have the bottom panel completed. We have the same amount of rows as our front panel. Now from here, we're going to single crochet across the top. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain one, flip our work. 2 single crochets into every side double, 1 single crochet into every side slip, making our way all the way across, then do a chain up of 1 and cut. We've just made our way all the way across with our single crochet row. Now we're going to do the top panel of our back panel. So what we're going to do is, again, switch out to our 6mm hook, insert your hook into the top corner stitch, and start by making a chain for the same amount of chains that we made for the front panel's top portion. Then we're going to do our 6-row repeat, but with absolutely no increases, no decreases, no neckline. So Trinity stitch row, single crochet row, and just continue to repeat that 6-row repeat. Again, no increases, no decreases, connecting into the base the same way that we've been doing. Should have the same amount of stitches every row, making our way all the way across. Once we made our way all the way across, do a chain up 1 and cut, then I will meet y'all back. We are back. We have just completed the entirety of our back panel. Now what we're going to do from here is seam everything together. So let's all place our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that the ribbing for the bottom is faced outward because the seam is going to look like another back loop slip stitch seam. Insert our 5mm hook into the bottom corner stitches, pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then what we're going to do is find that first stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop, next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, then yarn over and gently pull through all 3 loops. Again, next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, yarn over, pull through everything, and we're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way up until we're done working into the bottom panel. Then repeat on the other side, and then I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed seaming along the bottom panel of the sides. Now we're going to seam our shoulders. So we're going to first make sure the work is flipped wrong side out, meaning the ribbing that we have for the bottom panel is now faced along the inside. Then we're going to insert our 6mm hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then what we're going to do from here is just put 1 single crochet into every side row, working into both the front and the back panel. So into that top loop within the front panel, insert, top loop within the back panel, insert with 1 single crochet. This is my next side row. Find that top loop within the front, next top loop within the back, insert with a single, and once more, next top loop within the front, insert, next top loop within the back, insert, and that's it. Continue single crocheting till we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up 1 and cut and repeat on the other side. So we are back. We have just completed seaming our shoulders. Now we're ready to get started on our collar. So first things first, let's all make sure that the work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our 6mm hook into any one of our side rows within our neckline, and we're going to single crochet along the edge. So I inserted mine into the stitch that's nearest to my shoulder seam, so I'm going to start working my way down my front panel and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back once we reach our first side row, just so I can show you what we're going to do there. So I've just made our way down with our single crochets. Now we're going to work into our side rows. So what we're going to do, we should have 3 side rows, 2 Trinity stitch rows and 1 single crochet row. What we're going to do into our first Trinity stitch row is insert with 2 single crochets. Our following Trinity stitch side row, 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet into the following side row. So let's get this started. My first side row right here is a side Trinity stitch row. So I'm going to insert into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then also there's 2. This following side row for me is just 1 single crochet, but if yours is another side row, that's completely fine as well. But since it's a single crochet row, we're always just going to put 1 single crochet into that top loop. Now my next set of stitches is Trinity, Trinity, single. So let's do that together. Into that top loop, insert with 2 single crochets because it's the first Trinity in that set. My next side row is another Trinity, so 1 single crochet into there. And my next side row is a single crochet row, so just 1 single crochet into there. And that's it. We're just going to continue doing this, making our way all the way up and around. And once we don't have any more stitches left, slip stitch into that chain space. But a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So when it's completed, make sure that you're trying your piece on, making sure that it still fits. If it's a little bit too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. So we are back. Our single crochet row along our neckline is complete. Now we're going to get started on the length of our collar. So right after we've slip stitched into that chain space, what we're going to do is make a chain the length that we'd like for the collar to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 5. Once we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, 1 slip stitch into every chain. So into that chain, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything. Again, insert, yarn over, pull through everything, and continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. Once we put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're going to connect it into the base. And how we're going to do that is slip stitching into that next available stitch into the base, so the same way that we did for the body into the bottom panel. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert into that back loop with 1 back loop slip stitch. From here, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We're at the end of our row 3, now we're going to connect it into the base. So the same way we did our previous row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base to connect. Doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip into every stitch again. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam it all together. So we are back. We have made our way all the way around with our neckline. Now from here, we're just going to seam it up, but this seam is going to be done exactly the same way as our sides. So since we already know how to do that, just making sure that our work is flipped right side out, we're going to do our same outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the sides, then do a chain up 1 and cut. Then once we have that completed, the last thing we're going to do is our armhole detail. So this is actually going to be done exactly the same way as the neckline, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. We're all going to start by inserting our 6mm hook into the last side seam that we have that is nearest to the armhole. And since we already have stitches left to work into, all we're going to do is make a chain the length that we'd like for the armhole detail to be. Again, just like my collar, I like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm just going to start by making a chain 5. Then do my same back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way up and around our armhole. When we don't have any more stitches left, I'll meet you back to seam it together. So we are back. We have just completed our armhole detail, and now we're going to seam it together, but as you can see, I've already seamed mine together as well. It is going to be the same seam as our collar and the sides, so just an outside loop slip stitch seam. Once we have that completed, repeat everything we did here on the other side. Once we have, then do a chain up 1 and cut. Then we are all finished. Then the last thing I have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!